How's it going? And welcome back to another episode of Mood for Feud. I'm your host Katya, and today we're going to be talking about the somewhat messy feud between Camila Cabello and the rest of the Fifth Harmony girls. I had so much fun looking into this feud, mostly because I just really enjoyed watching back all the old Fifth Harmony X Factor performances, but also their interview moments, and honestly everything from the performances to the outfits to the whole vibe in general was just screaming 2012, and I was so here for it. I know a lot of people on TikTok are saying they want to go back to 2016, but honestly, send me back further. Send me back to 2012. I want to wear a collared neon pink shirt with high-waisted bright blue shorts and some crazy hair accessories. I want my side part back. I'm so sick of this 2024 clean girl minimalist aesthetic that everyone has going on. I'm sick of beige. I'm sick of brown. I'm sick of cool grey tones. I want 2012 vibes back in my life. And that's what this band really was. Like, if you go back and you look at some of the Fifth Harmony moments on X Factor, watch like a little compilation clip, it's so good. I'll definitely be posting some of my favorite performances on my Instagram at Mood for Feud, so make sure you follow along so that you can check that out. And as always, don't forget to rate and review the podcast. Follow the show so that you never miss an episode. So if you didn't know, Fifth Harmony are a girl group that was formed on X Factor in 2012, and looking into this made me realize that I really miss girl groups, and I'd be interested to know if you feel the same. But there's been a real gap in the market since probably around the time of Fifth Harmony, and there just aren't really any girl bands in the music industry. And I'm not talking about K-pop, because oh my gosh, the girl groups in K-pop are absolutely thriving, and the boy bands as well, actually. You know, like Blackpink is out here killing it, so I'm definitely not including them in this sentiment when I say this. But K-pop isn't really a genre that I would normally listen to, and so I've been craving the kind of other girl groups like Little Mix, Fifth Harmony, Spice Girls, that kind of vibe. I will say lately though, I have been getting into K-pop, and I truly think it's just because I'm missing this girl group energy that we used to be spoiled for in the early 2010s. I don't really know why, but there's just something absolutely iconic about any group of women dancing in sync, the presence of it on stage. I find their interviews way more entertaining. I think it's so fun to learn about a whole group and like, oh, you know, who's the funny one, who's the crazy one, who do I relate to the most. I miss the little magazine quizzes that you take to find out which member of the group you are, all that good stuff. So I'm really craving that kind of thing, and maybe if Simon Cowell is listening to this right now, it's time for another group of strangers that you pull together and force to be in a successful band. But that's enough from me, and let's get into the actual feud. So as I mentioned, today we're going to be talking about Camila Cabello and the dramatic departure she had from the girl band Fifth Harmony. I think we'll probably start with a little Fifth Harmony breakdown. So what happened was all 5 girls that formed Fifth Harmony actually auditioned as solo contestants in 2012 on the X Factor USA. So we have Camila Cabello, Normani Hamilton, Ellie Brooke, Dinah Jane, and Lauren Horigi. Yeah, like I said, they initially each auditioned as solo contestants, but neither of them really advanced into the later stages. I think the furthest that any of them got was like the boot camp round, and then they were kicked off at that point. However, the girls were asked to come back as a group that was put together by the judges, which were Simon Cowell, Demi Lovato, Britney Spears, and LA Reid. And this is very One Direction, Little Mix vibes, where they pulled these girls out of all the people auditioning and kind of grouped them together and looked at what that would look like, and then were like, okay, yeah, cool, that's a good sounding group, let's ask them to come back. And so they got brought back into the stage where the contestants go to perform at the judges' houses, and from that they made it through. So who was in the group? starting off, obviously we have Camila Cabello. She's probably more known now for her solo career because it has been super successful since she left Fifth Harmony. Some of her songs that you might know is the one Havana with Shawn Mendes, but she also has that one that's like, he says he likes a good time. Sorry, I don't know the name of that one. And then she also has I Know What You Did Last Summer, also with Shawn Mendes. Yeah, I feel like most people would know who Camila Cabello is and have heard at least one song on the radio. So Camila was born March 3rd, 1997, which makes her a Pisces. She was born in Havana, Cuba, and she also has Mexican descent from her dad's side, I believe. So she was born in Cuba, but at age 6, her and her mum actually relocated to Miami, Florida, and then her dad joined them 18 months later because he couldn't get a visa at the same time as them. Once her dad moved to America, her parents actually formed a construction company. And they named this Camila and Sophia, which is after her and her sister. Camila was really passionate about singing, and when she was in high school, she actually dropped out of going to actual school to pursue her singing career, but she did continue her education with homeschooling. But yeah, at high school age already, she was realizing that singing is the path that she wanted to take. And like I mentioned, she's had a super successful singing career. She's won a ton of awards, she's done a ton of collabs, and yeah, her music's very popular, particularly in the like pop radio genre. Okay, next we have Normani Hamilton. Usually she kind of just goes by Normani now. She was born May 31st, 1996, and this makes her a Gemini. She was born in Atlanta, and she has 2 older sisters called Ashley and Ariel, and she is of mixed African American, Indian, and French descent. And can I just say, like on a little personal side note, Normani is freaking gorgeous. I was so stunned watching performances of her, and like especially she, like Camila, has done fairly well with her solo career. Not as well as Camila, but you know, she's put out her own music that has charted and become mainstream. She's just such a great performer. Anyway, she was raised in New Orleans but relocated to Texas following Hurricane Katrina. Why can I not say Hurricane Katrina without thinking of that little boy on Vine who's like, Hurricane Katrina, more like Hurricane Tortilla. Please tell me you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Normani actually went to private school, and then from 6th grade, she was homeschooled as well. So kind of like Camila, but Camila wasn't homeschooled until high school. From the age of 3, Normani was already competing in dance competitions, gymnastics contests, beauty pageants, and her mum would travel quite frequently from Houston to LA so that she could attend different auditions, acting auditions, dancing auditions, singing auditions, etc., etc. But she does describe that dance was always her first passion. So like the singing, she was just like very talented at, but dancing is what her passion was. Then we also have Ally Brooke. She was born July 7th, 1993, making her a Cancer. She was born in San Antonio, Texas, and she was actually a miracle baby. She was born very premature, and I think she was like 1 pound in weight when she was born, which is obviously extremely light for a baby. So yeah, incredible that she managed to survive. She is of Mexican descent, but her parents didn't raise her speaking Spanish because they didn't want her to be discriminated against in school and stuff. And that is so sad, but also so understandable. And I think it's quite common for people who immigrate to another country. You know, the thing you want to do most is just assimilate into the country where you now live. And so, yeah, they made the conscious decision to not have her speaking Spanish at home. They always spoke English. Similarly to the other girls, she started singing at an early age. And then, like Camila, she was homeschooled in high school so that she could focus on her singing career. So that's 3 out of 3 homeschooled right now. Then we have Dinah Jane. She was born June 22nd, 1997, and this makes her also a Cancer. She was born in California and is the eldest of 8 children. She is of Tongan, Samoan, Fijian, and Danish descent. Malo elele Dinah, my fellow Tongan sister. She can actually speak Tongan as well, which is so impressive. So already miles ahead of me. Yeah, I think that's really cool. You don't often see Tongan or just Polynesian representation in general in Hollywood, so I was actually pretty excited to find out that she's a Polynesian sister. She comes from a very musically gifted family, and she developed a passion for singing from an early age, like all the other girls. I think for all of them, singing was kind of always in the cards. It doesn't say that she was homeschooled though. And then finally in the group we have Lauren Hortegi. She was born June 27th, 1996, and she is also a Cancer. So you're telling me that Simon Cowell made a girl group with 3 Cancers, a Pisces, and a Gemini, and then had the audacity to be shocked when it all fell apart? I'm surprised this feud isn't worse. It could have been worse. Let me just say that, alright? So Lauren was born in Florida and her parents are Cuban, and they moved to the US when Fidel Castro came to power. So that's where Lauren grew up. She is the eldest of 3 siblings and attended Catholic schooling throughout her whole life. She had an early passion for the arts, singing, writing, dancing, choreographing, painting, like just art in general. She was very talented already during school. She is openly bisexual, and she featured on Halsey's song Strangers, which is about a same-sex relationship. She's a strong advocate for LGBT communities and was awarded the Celebrity of the Year award at the British LGBT Awards in 2017, but she's actually an activist on a range of social issues, from human rights to education, etc. She wrote several open letters to Trump while he was president, voicing her concerns over some of the problematic policies that he was putting in place. And then another fun fact, she has cited that Lana Del Rey is one of her inspirations, and oh my gosh, get me a Lana Del Rey Lauren Hortegi collab right now. I could so see their voices just fitting perfectly together. I'm going to be manifesting this for my 2024, especially because Lana does often make music with a bit of a like Latinesque twist to it. She sometimes sings in Spanish. She sometimes has those kinds of melodies in the backs of her tracks, and so I think it would be so cool for her to collab with Lauren. I don't know, let me know if you think this would work. Maybe I need to put this into one of those AI thingies so that I can see what it would listen like, and then maybe I could like send it to Lana and be like, make this happen. But I truly think that their voices would just sound amazing together. So those are our members: Camila, Normani, Ali, Dinah, and Lauren. So like I said, they were asked back onto the show after each of them didn't progress in their individual categories. They went in at the judges' house stage where they performed for Simon Cowell, and this qualified them to progress to the next stage. I'm pretty sure they sung Impossible, and it's amazing. You should check it out. It's actually, yeah, they crushed it. Their band was initially named Lilas, which stood for Love You Like a Sister. However, Bruno Mars' sisters actually have a band called The Lilas, and so they were not happy about it and they asked them to change their name. And then the band was named 1432, which is a text term for I Love You Too. And Simon Cowell was not a fan. And honestly, thank God, because neither am I. I think 1432 is just such a mouthful, and I just don't think it would have been catchy. It just doesn't look great. Like, I'm looking at it right now, it just looks like 1432. I don't know. It's, you know, you've got the 1975, and for whatever reason that combination of numbers works as a band name, but the 1432 just doesn't really, I don't know. He was right to say that that name is shit. I totally agree with him. So their next name was actually voted for by the audiences, and that's how we get Fifth Harmony. Fifth Harmony ended up placing 3rd on the X Factor, which I don't know if this is a hot take, but I don't think winning X Factor is actually that important. I think winning Simon Cowell's attention is more important. Didn't One Direction also place 3rd in their X Factor? And look how massive they ended up becoming because they had Simon Cowell. I truly don't think you need to win X Factor to be successful. After the show, they do get signed with Simon Cowell's label Psycho Music, and L.A. Reid, who obviously was another judge on the X Factor, they sign under his label Epic Records as well. I think it's like a joint deal type thing. In 2013, they debuted their first single called Miss Movin On, which is also the title of this episode because Camila ends up being the Miss Movin On. Their first album, Better Together, does really well, as do their later releases, Reflections, and 727 is probably when the group most notably peaked in the charts, when they invented working from home. I'm sure you've all heard the song Work From Home. It's crazy to think that at the time, work from home just wasn't a thing. Maybe for contractors or freelancers or content creators, but for the average person, work from home in 2016 just wasn't a thing. And I think what made Fifth Harmony so successful, or at least what garnered them a lot of attention and a lot of fans, is that it was really cool to see a diverse group of girls with different cultural backgrounds, particularly in 2012, 2013. That was still fairly rare back in that time. You've got some great cultural backgrounds there, and I think that really made the group not only stand out visually, but they just brought a different energy to the music industry than what you might see from other girl groups out there. This is sounding shady, but it's not shady. I'm just speaking my truth. They would even record some of their songs in Spanish, or like a mix between English and Spanish, and so this really made them marketable to a broader range of audiences as well, which I think really contributed to their overwhelming success. In 2016, however, things do shake up when Camila leaves the group, and now this was drama. Obviously, we're going to get into it all once we get into the nitty-gritty of the feud, but yeah, this was a huge moment for Fifth Harmony. However, the remaining four girls did decide to continue under the name Fourth Harmony. No, I'm just kidding. They kept their name Fifth Harmony. But the four of them did continue to make music for another 2 years before announcing their indefinite hiatus in 2018, as they each wanted to focus on their solo endeavors. So what has everyone in the group been up to since then? Camila, as I mentioned up top, became massively successful with her solo career. She famously dated Shawn Mendes, and together they made a lot of music which did really well in the charts. Plus, they kind of owned the internet in 2020 with some of their kind of cringe quarantine content. They were doing the whole, going out in your Ugg boots for your little mandatory mental health walk with their little coffee cup. Anyway, it was such a moment. Normani, I would say, has had the second most successful solo career. She's done some big collabs. For example, she duetted with Khalid to make the song Love Lies, which featured on the movie Love, Simon. Obama actually listed Love Lies as one of his favorite songs in his year-end 2019 list. She's done some modeling gigs. Also in 2019, she did Dancing with a Stranger with Sam Smith. Again, massive song. And then she released her first solo song without featuring another artist, and this was called Motivation. And this is kind of when I first started taking note of her, because holy crap, she can dance. Look up the music video for Motivation. I can see now why she says dancing was her first passion. She is so incredibly talented. It's just hard to take your eyes off her. And this is also, Motivation is around the time when she became one of my it girls. I really thought she was going to be the moment. She continued to have incredible collaborations in 2019, 2020. She collabed with Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B. She was in the WAP music video, the biggest song of 2020, right? And she's in the music video. And then she just fell off. I don't understand what happened. She was on such a big upward trajectory. I think when Motivation first came out, a lot of people, not just myself, were like, oh shit, this girl has talent. She's ready to be one of the next big it girls in the music industry. And then where did she go? She still hasn't put out a debut album. Her first single came out in 2019. I don't know. Somebody with really good knowledge of the music industry, can you explain to me why Normani isn't one of the biggest it girls? She's gorgeous, she can dance, she can obviously sing. Make it make sense. There has to be some kind of other shit going on, either issues with her producers or stuff like that, because I can't for the life of me figure out why she isn't huge. I'll say it, I'm surprised she's not bigger than Camila. I'm surprised that Camila is the bigger breakout star from Fifth Harmony. I think she does actually have a new album coming out 2024, so maybe this is her time. Maybe now she's going to be the next big thing. I'm definitely here for it. Okay, Ellie Brooke. Since Fifth Harmony went on hiatus, Ellie has also done some cool collabs, most notably with A$AP Ferg, but I haven't actually heard any of her work. She's released some Spanish language songs. There's one called Vámonos, which I think did well. She also released a Spanish music album, and she's done covers as well, such as Last Christmas. I think then she released her own Christmas song, and in 2019 she was on Dancing with the Stars, and she also wrote a memoir called Finding Your Harmony. She actually explained that she didn't love her time in Fifth Harmony and that it came with a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of mental trauma, which I can totally understand. Not from a first-hand perspective, but I guess I can empathize with it because it would be so tough to be in a girl group like that where you're on the world stage and everyone is judging you for every little thing that you do and also comparing you a lot to the other girls. She discusses in her memoir as well a lot of the challenges she had with her body because people would often refer to her as the fat one in the group, which is absolutely disgusting. And I will say that is the part of girl groups that I kind of don't miss, and that's why I'm hoping that if we had a girl group now, we would maybe, I don't know, this is probably wishful thinking, but that we maybe wouldn't just fucking compare them to one another, because it's so tempting, right, when you've got 5 women standing in front of you to be like, oh, who's the tall one, who's the pretty one, and it's like, we need to stop doing that, because I swear to God, this is why everyone who's been in a girl group is freaking unhappy about it and eventually leaves the group, or the whole group leaves and the band's nowhere to be found. And that's probably why people like Simon Cowell don't want to invest in another girl group that's going to be disbanded within 3 to 4 years. But I don't know. I wish we would stop doing that because I can imagine it to be very frustrating. And then Dinah, she's also done a bunch of collabs. She did a song with Leona Lewis, with Ty Dolla $ign, and she also put out new music and released her debut EP titled Dinah Jane 1. She was actually set to tour in 2020, however, obviously that all got uprooted with COVID. And then last year she released Yaya, which is a song in which she wanted to showcase more of her Polynesian roots, and she's kind of explained that she wants to do more of that style of music in her music career moving forward. Give it a listen, it is so good. I was so excited. It's just really cool to see Polynesian representation. As I mentioned, she is my Tongan sister, and the music video is very gorgeous. I love the sound of it. So yeah, Yaya has been added to my Apple Music. And then lastly, Lauren, as I mentioned, is very big into her activism. She has been involved in a lot of activism, but she's also done collabs with Steve Aoki. She's opened for Halsey's Latin America leg of her tour in 2018. She's done a bunch of collaborations with other Latin American producers and artists. She, in 2020, raised funds for COVID relief. Honestly, she kind of just sounds like a political queen. She released her first album in 2021. She's also made a podcast, and then in December last year she released a single, The Day the World Blows Up. Give it a listen. It is such a powerful but obviously also quite sad song, and a portion of the profits are being donated to organizations that are supporting Palestinian children. So give it a listen and you'll also be helping out a great cause at the same time. So that's a little into what Fifth Harmony has been up to since going on their hiatus. Okay, I'll give a little into my Fifth Harmony thoughts. I'm going to be honest, I was never the biggest Fifth Harmony fan, okay? Like, their music that they put out on the radio and whatnot, it was okay. It just wasn't something that I could get obsessed with, you know? But I will say, I've kind of grown more of an appreciation for them after watching their X Factor songs. So I watched like a Fifth Harmony compilation, all their songs that they performed on X Factor. I watched. It was like 50 minutes long, and a lot of the songs that they did really well with in the X Factor were the more ballad type songs. Like I mentioned, at the Judge's House they sing Impossible. They also covered Skyscraper by Demi Lovato. In my mind, their most impressive cover was Christina Perri's 1,000 More. Lauren's voice in that song is actually insane. Like, you need to take a listen. And so that's where they really, in my mind, stood out. Like, that was the music that suited a lot of their voices. You know, obviously their harmonies were on point, but you don't really get a bunch of harmonizing in a song like Work From Home. And I think that that's kind of where my interest in Fifth Harmony didn't really take off after they left the show. Because once they left, they were doing very much pop music. You know, even Miss Movin On is still very poppy. You don't really get to hear their authentic voices. It's very auto-tuned and layered, and obviously there's a time and place for that kind of music as well, but I just think it's such a shame because you had such strong vocalists who were able to harmonize flawlessly and who were able to belt out some of the ballads that they covered whilst they were on X Factor. They did a cover of Mariah Carey's Hero and it like just about brought me to tears. I literally had that thing, what's it called? Eargasm? I had that, okay? I fucking eargasmed to that cover. I just don't understand why Simon did that. And maybe I need to call him up, okay? Me with my zero experience in the music industry, and just point out to him that this is where he went wrong. Because obviously pop music sells a lot better, but we already have a bunch of pop music and we've got artists that can do it better than them. However, get them onto an Adele style ballad and like they would have killed it. Yeah, I don't know. I just wish they'd done more music like that. I think that's what I wanted. I didn't want them to do sexy tracks like Work From Home with Normani fucking twerking on a tractor and Camila grinding on a cement mixer. Like, nobody asked for that. I want the girls singing a raw, beautiful, from the soul, belting type song about heartbreak. I will say, at the very least, they could all sing. Okay, so they had more going for them than One Direction already. But if you look me in the eyes and tell me that Louis Tomlinson can sing, then you're a liar. Anyway, like I said, I watched a lot of their compilation videos from their time on X Factor. Camila's voice does stick out a lot from the crowd. Not because she's a better singer or a worse singer than the rest of the girls. She's just like a different font of singing. Her voice is so stylized and it's almost just a completely different vibe. And like, again, I'm not saying any of this is like a bad thing, but it really just throws off the group vibes, because I think particularly when you're singing in a group, it's not the same as singing by yourself. You kind of have to have the wider group's vibe at the forefront of your mind and not your own vibe, which is difficult, especially for a creative who's very like true to themselves and wants to sing the way they want to sing. But it just doesn't fit. And I'm going to be posting some examples of this to my Instagram because I am dying to know whether I'm alone in thinking this. Yeah, I don't know. It's like the difference of singing in a choir versus singing alone, you know, like you have to have the group's interest at heart. And I just think Lauren and Normani, they have these really silky smooth, rounded, deep voices, and then that pairs so well with like Dinah's Whitney Houston-esque voice, and then Ellie also has quite a smooth voice, and Camila's voice just isn't in that genre. Like, it is completely different, and that's why I think since doing her solo career, she's done a lot better in the pop music, because in my mind her voice suits that kind of pop girly energy. I don't know how to explain it. You really need to just hear it. And you know what? I think Demi clicked onto this as well, because I'm sure we all know the like super iconic clip where they've just performed on X Factor and Demi's obviously one of the judges. They'd actually just performed We Are Never Getting Back Together by Taylor Swift, so like a very pop song. And Demi says, I feel like there was only one person that shined for me tonight. I think you need more practice together. You need to come out of your shell a little bit. Right now, there's only one person doing it for me. She didn't name any names, right? But Khloe Kardashian was one of the hosts, and she gets a bit messy. She's like, Demi, who's the one that clicked for you? And Demi's like, well, next up we have my final contestant. And then Chloe's like, no, I want to know, and I think they should know. Who was it? It'll help them get better if you can tell them who it was. She kind of hesitates for like a couple more seconds, and then is like, it was you, Camila. Yeah, Camila's the one that clicked. And then she says to the other girls, I think you could all learn something from her. I find it interesting that this moment happened just after they'd sung a pop song, because this kind of confirms my thinking that the other girlies have voices more suited to ballad type of music, and then Camila has a pop voice. But when you hear them cover Mariah Carey Hero, for example, Camila's voice still stands out, but in my mind, not for the better. Like, she doesn't shine as Demi says. This is very hard to explain. Just go to my Instagram, okay? I'll explain it all there with clips. Alright, let's get into the feud. Now, as I mentioned, Camila has kind of been standing out from the group, you know. Demi singles her out in that moment. I'm singling her out right now. And I think it's also important to remember before we get into this feud that these girls, they're not great friends, okay? Like, they are essentially strangers that were handpicked by the judges, put into this group together. And so, I don't know, in my mind, it's not that surprising to think that in a lucky dip like that, not everyone is going to get along with one another. And, you know, maybe One Direction did a better job of pretending or hiding it, as did Little Mix. But realistically, these groups of people aren't friends, at least initially when they form the band. And sure, like, certain people will click better with others and, you know, friendships will form out of that. But I think it's unrealistic to expect that all 5 girls are magically going to get along equally with one another and become sisters. Do you know what I mean? This is quite funny, but when they first formed as a band, Harry Styles actually does give them some advice, and he says, I'll do this in my Harry voice. People are going to try break you guys apart. So as long as you 5 are your best friends, that's the most important. That was such a bad impression. But isn't that just so ironic? Harry is telling them to all be best friends. I'm sorry, the One Direction boys were messy as hell. Like, sure, we didn't see any of it at the time, and, you know, everyone might have been blinded a little bit by the Directioner craze that was happening, but looking back now, we know for a fact that, for example, Liam and Zayn were not best friends, okay? So, I don't know. I just thought that advice from Harry was funny. Anyway, a lot of people say that this feud starts in March 2015 when Taylor Swift throws a surprise birthday party for Camila and none of the other Fifth Harmony girls are invited. And I don't know. Just because, like I said, just because they work together obviously doesn't mean they have to be together every waking moment. But to me, this does confirm that the Fifth Harmony girls do just have a working relationship, at least with Camila. Again, it's not unreasonable to not want your co-workers at your birthday, or particularly if your close friend is throwing you your birthday, maybe they wouldn't think to invite your co-workers. But like, to the fans, that would have been surprising because, you know, the fans are Delulu and think that these girls are like sisters, which is part of the like fantasy that you subscribe to when you follow them. I don't know. Yeah, this does very much put into perspective how close the girls were if it didn't even occur to Taylor to invite them. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so 2 months after that, Camila and Ellie actually attend a Taylor Swift concert together, and Shawn Mendes is the opening act. Now, after the show, Camila leaves Ellie to meet Shawn backstage, and the two actually write a song together. And this is like the first inkling that we get that Camila is working behind the scenes of Fifth Harmony, right? Her and Ellie went to this concert together, but her and Ellie don't both go to meet Shawn Mendes backstage. Only Camila goes, and then they write a song together, which again, like, Camila is isolating herself a little bit from the band. Not a bad thing, but we do get to see the first inklings that Camila might be craving a solo career. So the song that they wrote together is actually I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it gets released in November 2015. And all the girls in the band do show support for this song on Twitter, except for Ellie, who she went to the concert with. And I feel like it's because, I don't know, I'm making this up, but she's probably salty. I would be salty if I went to a concert with someone and then they ditched me to go meet one of the artists backstage, but I didn't get to come. And then I find out later that they'd actually written a song together as well. There were rumours as well that Camila didn't tell the others about I Know What You Did Last Summer until it was released. So again, like, I can see that causing some tensions, do you know what I mean? In December that year, Fifth Harmony hires a lawyer, but the lawyer actually only represents the 4 girls, not Camila. And this is when fans start to speculate that Camila is thinking about leaving Fifth Harmony, because why would you get a lawyer that doesn't include her as well? Around this time as well, the 4 girls post a photo to Twitter and they're recording in the studio and Camila is nowhere to be seen. I think later it was confirmed that she actually was in the recording booth with them, but the photo had been deliberately taken to not include her. We roll into 2016 and this is where we get the peak of the like awkward Fifth Harmony interviews. You know, a lot of the ones in the compilations that you get where it's like 3 minutes of Camila being ignored in Fifth Harmony, or like 2 minutes of Camila being left out in Fifth Harmony. A lot of the clips for those compilations, I'll post some of those as well, come from this time where the girls just really weren't vibing with her at this point. And to be honest, none of the girls particularly seem to be vibing. I watched a couple of clips and like they're all just so awkward. I don't know, maybe they're tired, you know? Like they would have been touring. Maybe the last thing that you want to do on your day off from performing is sit in some interview room and discuss what your favorite cheese is. But like, I don't know, the vibes are off, okay? Like I could barely get through some of them because it looks like they're being held at gunpoint. I think that's the best way I can describe it. Now, perhaps the most viral moment is in an interview clip where Normani is asked to describe all the girls in the band. And so she starts with Ellie, and she's like, Ellie is my sunshine. She is the light of the group. You know, she always perks us up when we're feeling down, which now knowing that in Ellie's memoir, she details how difficult she found it and, you know, how she was struggling with alcohol abuse and just a lot of trauma from being in Fifth Harmony. I feel like this is actually even more of a compliment because, you know, she's being described as the one to perk them up and to be positive and optimistic. And I'm like, I don't know, it's always the people who are like that who are actually like hurting the most, right? Anyway, that's a little tangent. And then she goes on to describe Lauren and she's like, Lauren's like my therapist. I can go to her about anything and she, you know, is so trustworthy. She never judges my thinking or my actions and I can just talk her through my biggest problems. And then she's like, Dinah is the turn up queen. She is always having fun. She is, you know, always blasting music on her speaker. She's just such a good energy to have around. And then it gets to Camila and she's like, she is, let's see, very quirky, cute, quirky. And it's so shady in the best way because it's like there's nothing that bad about calling someone quirky cute, but like after gloating about the other girls and how amazing they are and then to just be like, let's see, she is quirky, it's just like, yeah, it's hard to not perceive that as shade. It kind of sounds like with the other girls, she was recalling really specific moments. You know, she was giving examples. For Ellie's one, she said like, you know, if I can't be bothered to get my makeup done, she'll always perk me up and be like, no, you can do it. And same with like Dinah, she discusses how she's always playing her music really loud at the airport and it's kind of embarrassing, but it's also fun how she just doesn't care. And so it sounds like she was recalling actual moments when it came to the rest of the girls. And then with Camila, it's like nothing sprang to mind for her, so then she just settled on quirky cute, which I don't know, I personally love that. I think I might start describing more people like that. So anyway, it's a pretty harmless interview, right? Well, Camila's fans didn't think so. They thought that Normani was throwing crazy shade, and so they start posting really racist tweets. They're calling Normani harmful slurs. They're calling her really racist nicknames, which I'm not going to repeat. They are just so disgusting. They Photoshop Normani being lynched. Yeah, absolutely gross. And like the punishment just doesn't fit the crime. She said Camila was fucking quirky. Like, get over it. That's not offensive enough to warrant photoshopping someone being lynched. It's particularly someone with African American heritage. Like, grow the fuck up. That is so fucking insensitive. Anyway, it's just so annoying because when you look at the video, it's funny. Like, it's not even that harmful. I don't think Camila would have gone home and cried about being called quirky. Like, she didn't, I don't know, people didn't need to do all that. There really isn't ever a reason to be racist towards someone, to be honest, but like this particularly, obviously this type of behavior is never okay is what I'm trying to say, but it's definitely not okay in this scenario. Camila did openly critique her fans and ask them to stop, which, like, thank God, because I do hate when this sort of thing happens and then the person whose fans it is just, like, steps back or goes MIA, and it's like, no, you need to, like, stand down your soldiers. Anyway, the awkwardness continues. They allegedly have to hire a therapist during the 727 tour in 2016 because there were just so many tensions in the group. There's a series of meet and greet photos that the band did at this time, and it's almost comical how like all the other girls are standing really close together and then Camila is like half a meter away from everybody else. And also the rest of 2016, Camila is just hardly with the other girls. She's off collaborating with other artists like MGK and Diplo, and meanwhile the girls go to like Britney Spears concert together. They go to a 4th of July party together. At the 2016 MTV VMAs, allegedly the girls left an after party the second that Camila arrived, almost as a way to completely avoid her. And so it's starting to become more and more obvious that there's definitely cracks in the group, at least between Camila and the other girls. When Fifth Harmony is performing in Missouri, Camila actually leaves the show early and she doesn't close it out with the other girls. She later posts on her Snapchat that she couldn't finish the set because she had too much anxiety, which is obviously fair enough, but it is interesting, like the timing of it all. The band also starts cancelling tours here and there with no real explanation. Like, we're getting all the signs that something's about to go wrong. When Simon Cowell gets asked about it, he says, quote, "We have conversations about what they want to do. We gotta listen to them. It'll be fine." And then he turns to the camera, does like an eek type face, and adds, "I hope." Like, oh my god, Simon, why are you contributing to this as well? So in 2016, it becomes clear to the fans that even Simon Cowell isn't really sure what's going to happen with Fifth Harmony. Things get even messier between them at the iHeartRadio Awards. Fifth Harmony wins 2 awards during this show, and then Camila wins another 2 for her solo work with Shawn Mendes. And following the show, Fifth Harmony's manager, Roger Gold, tweets, "So proud of Camila Cabello, who won 4 MMVAs last night." And he doesn't even mention the other girls. Like, he pretty much only congratulates Camila. And then Lauren's mum actually tweets back, "Let's get it right, 2 were thanks to Fifth Harmony. Just keeping it real." Which is true. Like, Fifth Harmony won 2 awards, Camila won 2 awards. Why could Roger Gold not say, "So proud of Fifth Harmony, who won 2 awards last night, and Camila Cabello for your 2 awards as well"? I don't know. It kind of sounds like other people that they were with were also getting a little bit messy about it. To me, that's super shady, particularly coming from a manager who's meant to be representing all the girls. Do you know what I mean? So all of 2016, this kind of stuff has been happening. It's getting very clear that Camila is on the outskirts with the other girls. And in December 2016, Fifth Harmony do announce that Camila is leaving. They release a statement that says, quote, "After 4.5 years of being together, we have been informed via her representatives that Camila has decided to leave Fifth Harmony. We wish her well." Which is such a cold statement. I mean, the via her representatives is icy AF. It's clearly giving that something went wrong, and they're not even afraid to explain that Camila didn't even bother to tell them themselves that she was going to be leaving and that they had to hear it through her team. I don't know. The whole thing is so awkward. The statement continues, quote, "You harmonizers have been there with us since the beginning. You've supported us, you've rejoiced and cried with us, you've grown with us, and with your love and support, we will continue on. That being said, we are excited to announce that we will be moving forward with the 4 of us, Ellie, Normani, Dinah, and Lauren, for our fans. We are 4 strong, committed women who will continue with Fifth Harmony as well as our solo endeavors." And again, this just seems like a bit of a dig. We're going to, continue with Fifth Harmony and our solo endeavors. Kind of like digging into Camila for choosing one over the other and not being able to do both. And then it also says, for our fans, is kind of just insinuating that Camila doesn't give a shit. They end their statement with, "We are excited for our future and we can't wait for what the new year brings. Harmonizers, we are in this together. We love you with all our hearts." So shortly after Fifth Harmony releases this statement, Camila does make her own statement. She starts off by saying that being in Fifth Harmony with 4 very talented girls was the most life-changing experience and that she's so proud of their accomplishments. And then she addresses the statement put out by Fifth Harmony. She says, quote, "I was shocked to read the statement the Fifth Harmony account posted without my knowing. The girls were aware of my feelings through the long, much-needed conversations about the future that we had during the tour. Saying they were just informed through my representatives that I was leaving the group is simply not true. Just like the other girls said in their statement about their plans, I had planned to continue with my own solo endeavors in the new year, but I did not intend to end things with Fifth Harmony in this way. As sad as it is to see this chapter ending, I will continue to root them all on as individuals and as a group. I wish nothing but the best for them, all the success in the world, and true happiness." end quote. And then she puts out a heartfelt message to her fans, basically just thanking them for making all of their dreams come true, and she expresses excitement for her new journey. It's so messy, but also speak your truth, girl. You know, if the other girls put out a statement, put out your own. I just find it funny how they truly just aired it all out, like they just didn't give a shit. Now, Fifth Harmony makes another statement. Oh my god. In this they say I can't even imagine what the harmonizers were going through this day. They start their next statement off, "We know you are hurt and confused. We are too." They state that over the past several months, they've tried multiple times to sit down with Camila to discuss the future of Fifth Harmony, and that she continuously refused to turn up. They say that since Camila's first solo release, they've been trying to convince her to do one more album with Fifth Harmony, particularly because their previous years had been so successful, but that they never actually got the chance to properly talk to her because she refused to attend group meetings. They had to ask LA Reid and the label to step in to try organize these meetings, and Camila kept refusing. And so they say these lengthy conversations that Camila references in her statement never actually happened because she never showed up. And then they double down on the fact that they heard of Camila's departure through her manager, and that they were told December 18th would be her last show. Quote, "We were truly hurt. We've been together for almost 5 years, been through ups and downs. While this isn't the way any of us would have wanted this chapter in our lives to have ended, we had to begin to formulate a plan and a constructive path for Fifth Harmony to move forward beyond Camila. We truly support anyone's decision to do what makes them happy, and to that end we do wish Camila all the best, although are saddened by the way she and her team handled the situation." So, following this, in 2017, Camila does a cover for 17 magazine, and in this she opens up about her solo career and reflects on her Fifth Harmony departure. She says, quote, "Fifth Harmony wasn't the maximum expression of me individually. My fans are really going to get to know me from the music I'm writing. My goal is to be brave and open up my soul." And then later that month she interviews with Billboard, and she says, quote, "We didn't write our records. We were interpreting somebody else's story. Fifth Harmony is an entity or identity outside all of us, and I don't think anybody felt individually represented by the sound because we didn't make it." End quote. I'm sorry, what? You're telling me that when they sang, "You gotta do the work, but you gotta put in work," that wasn't heartfelt? They weren't singing their own truth? No, I'm kidding. I'm being a bitch. But I do understand what she's saying. It would be very frustrating not being able to sing about the things that you actually care about or that you actually relate to. I truly think that the ideal girl group member would be someone who likes to sing, likes to perform, but isn't a songwriter. Because I believe her when she says that they didn't write their own music, right? It's essentially quite manufactured. It's a completely different thing than being a solo artist, and it's definitely why a lot of people break out to pursue their solo careers so they can actually sing and write the music that they are into. Like, look at Dinah, for example. She couldn't do a whole Polynesian style track with Fifth Harmony. 2 months later, Fifth Harmony does their first magazine cover without Camila, with Galore. And in this interview, like, they just talk about how in sync they are. They are giving the vibes of like, we have never been better. Ellie Brooke is quoted as saying, "We're pretty open about most things. We try to respect each other as much as we can. For us, communication is really important." And again, I just feel like this is somewhat of an underhanded jab at Camila, who obviously they accused of not communicating with them. And then in the rest of 2017, they do more interviews, and they do one with Billboard. And when Normani is asked about Camila's awkward departure from the group, she says, quote, "I get to sleep at night knowing we did everything in our power as friends, bandmates, and human beings." And shortly after this interview is released, Camila does unfollow all of the girls on social media. And I had a quick look on Instagram, and she doesn't follow any of them to this day. And the other girls also don't follow her, except for Dinah. Dinah is the only one who follows Camila. Then we get to probably the messiest part of this whole feud. It's such a little moment, but it had such a huge impact, and I feel like The pop culture girlies will know what I'm talking about. But we get to the 2017 MTV VMAs. Firstly, why does everything happen at the VMAs? I'm sorry, this awards show has come up more than any other award show. I swear to God, this is where all the drama goes down. So Fifth Harmony, or should I say Fourth Harmony? No, because I already made that joke before. Anyway, Fifth Harmony is performing on stage, and when the song starts, there's actually 5 of them silhouetted on the stage. And everyone's like, oh my God, what is going on? You know, obviously at this point, Camila's left the group. Why is there 5 people standing on stage? However, shortly before the beat drops and the song actually begins, the 5th member, who is also standing in the center of the stage, gets like violently yeeted off the back of the stage. You know, obviously the symbolism there is like, fuck Camila. Like, there's no other way to interpret that. It is so iconic. Fifth Harmony later claimed that it was just their way of saying that Fifth Harmony, you know, is now the 4 of them. Like, the 4 of us are Fifth Harmony. And I'm like, no, that was 1,000% about Camila. Don't even try and twist some kind of other meaning into it. In 2018, Camila did interview with Rolling Stone and explained that she was really hurt by this. She says, quote, "It definitely hurt my feelings. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't prepared for it, especially because at that point, I'd moved on from it. I was just like, what? Why? I have to make space for the good stuff to happen in my life. I don't like holding on to the past, especially when it's stuff that, in my opinion, is just petty." And I agree with her. It is petty. But it's like petty iconic. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Go and watch it. I just think the way my jaw dropped when the 5th person just gets thrown off stage. Maybe I'm a mean girl at heart, but like, I just thought that was so funny. So in 2018, at the VMAs again, Camila actually explains that the beef is over. So this is 1 year after that performance, but I think since then, you know, the girls haven't really been fighting anymore. There's just probably the feud ran its course. She says, quote, "I feel like we're in a really good place now, me and the girls. I saw Normani recently at the Billboard Music Awards and we caught up, and I told her I'm super excited for her. I don't remember the last time I saw the other girls, but I told Normani to say the same thing to them. I feel like there's just been enough time and distance away from the situation that I feel like we're all genuinely in a good place right now. And honestly, there's just no time in life for that stuff. What's the point?" I think that's really nice. Like, essentially they did go through such a crazy experience together, and yeah, things did end somewhat badly, particularly between Camila and the other girls, but it's nice to recognize, like, it's all fine now. You know, who even cares? It was so long ago. So that's kind of where the feud, I guess, ends, but one little follow-up is that in 2019, old tweets and Tumblr posts from Camila resurfaced. Now, the tweets and Tumblr posts themselves were from 2012, 2013, but someone went and dug those up, and I do always feel weird when we do this because I don't know how to feel about it. One half of me is like, if they said something really racist back then we should hold them accountable, but then another part is like, she would have been 14 in 2012, and it's like, can we really hold someone to something that they tweeted when they were 14? Like, I was an idiot when I was 14. I probably said some real stupid shit. And if I ever blow up, you bet your ass I'm hiring a private investigator to, like, destroy my internet presence from back in the day. But anyway, basically these tweets and Tumblr posts, like, she was making really racist jokes, you know, using racist slurs. So once they resurfaced, Camila did issue an apology and say that she was absolutely disgusted at, her behavior in the past, and that this is something she'll be embarrassed about for the rest of her life. Yeah, so she does do the right thing. Now, Normani was asked about these posts because obviously being of African American descent, you know, she was the only black girl in the group, and she didn't really say anything about it as it was happening. However, she did do an interview with Rolling Stones, I believe it was, and she explains that it was quite difficult for her being the only black woman in Fifth Harmony because she often felt a little bit like the other girls couldn't really understand what she was going through, particularly when Camila's fans were being absolutely racist towards her online. She explains that the other members of the group didn't really know how to come to her defense and couldn't really understand what she was dealing with. She described them as, quote, not knowing how to be there for me the way that I needed it because it wasn't their own experience, and because when they look at me, they don't see me. And according to the interview, Normani often felt like the other one in the room, and her father, Derek, also chimed in saying that she was still quite scarred from when the harmonizers started targeting her online, when she described Camila as quirky. I can absolutely imagine that that would have been a very terrible time, and just another good reminder just of how much work we still have to do as a society. The fact that it took just one little slip up for everyone to pounce on her, like that wouldn't happen to people of other ethnicities quite to the same scale as it happened to Normani. And this is what's so frustrating, because women like Normani are held to a higher standard than other people, and this is something I've discussed previously on my podcast, but like it is something that is so frustrating to watch, and particularly for these young artists who are still learning to navigate having fans and having online trolls or whatever, to just be held to such impossible standards where all she did was call Camila quirky. Like, that's not even that bad, and it was enough for people to feel like they have the right to call her names. I don't know. It does my head in. So after the Rolling Stones interview, she actually releases an email statement to them later, because she wanted a chance to like sit down and actually come up with the right words to explain how she was feeling about Camila's tweets. So her written statement reads, I want to be very clear about what I'm going to say on this uncomfortable subject, and figured it would be best to write out my thoughts to avoid being misconstrued as I have been in the past. I struggled with talking about this because I didn't want it to be a part of my narrative, but I am a black woman who is a part of an entire generation that has a similar story. I face senseless attacks daily, as does the rest of my community. This represents a day in the life for us. I have been tolerating discrimination far before I could even comprehend what exactly was happening. Direct and subliminal hatred has been geared towards me for many years solely because of the color of my skin. She goes on to say that it would be dishonest of her to say that this scenario didn't hurt her, because she always felt like the sisterhood between them was meant to be a safe haven, and because she knew that if the tables were turned, she would defend each of the girls in a heartbeat. And then she says about Camila, quote, it took days for her to acknowledge what I was dealing with online, and then years for her to take responsibility for the offensive tweets that recently resurfaced. Whether or not it was her intention, this made me feel like I was second to the relationship that she had with her fans. And that is really sad, and yeah, oh god, a bit of a bummer note to end on, in all honesty. But I thought it was important to include it because I didn't really get too much into the racial implications of Fifth Harmony. Obviously, being a multicultural, diverse group came with its drawbacks as well, but that's just a little insight into it, I guess, without getting too heavy. And that's all that I have on this feud. As I mentioned on my story, Aphrodite, my favorite YouTuber, he does like pop culture psychic readings, and let me tell you, he never misses, okay? He is on the mark so many times. I feel like we're karmically connected, because as I was literally sitting in a cafe writing up this episode, he dropped a YouTube video titled, Did Camila Cabello Cause Fifth Harmony Breakup? And I was like, oh my god, is he reading my thoughts? How did he know that I am looking into this topic right now? So head over to YouTube and check that out. It's a very good video. I was going to recap in here, but I was like, actually no, people should go and support and watch Aphrodite's channel. It is amazing. So I'll just wrap up by giving my final thoughts. Yeah, like I've kind of mentioned throughout, it's not hugely surprising to me that Camila was the first to leave Fifth Harmony. Her vibe seems quite different from the other girls. Her singing style is completely different, and it makes sense to me that she would have wanted to, being a songwriter, it makes sense to me that she would have wanted to branch off and do her own thing. And I think it is fair enough that she did that. Maybe she didn't go about it in the right way, like sneaking around doing solo projects behind the other girl's back. is just kind of dishonest. And particularly when you sign up to a group, you sign up to being part of a team. And there is no I in team, Camila, okay? But there is a big I in Camila. Yeah, it was disappointing, but not surprising, you know? I don't blame her for going off, but she should have done it in a better way. And then the other thing I will say is I don't think Camila necessarily outshined the other girls. And I know this is a hot take because on the internet, I always see people saying, oh my God, Camila was being held back by Fifth Harmony, blah, 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 blah. I just think she didn't fit into the group. I don't know what Simon was thinking when he put her in there. Like, she's a great solo artist, but she just doesn't make sense to me in the Fifth Harmony setting. And then the last thing I'll say is I do think vocally Dinah and Lauren were stronger than her. I think they were the strongest vocalists in the group, even ahead of Normani. Again, maybe a hot take, but take a listen. Like, they have such incredible voices. But yeah, ultimately I do think it comes down to the girls not really vibing with Camila. Like I said, it's unreasonable to think that when you slap 5 strangers together, they're all automatically going to be best friends. Obviously, don't really know. Was it just them not clicking? You know, was it just a clash of personalities? Or maybe they were jealous of her? I know a lot of people think that it was a jealousy thing. But just because you don't like someone doesn't necessarily mean you're jealous of them. I mean, obviously she is the most successful out of all of them now, so could have been a jealousy thing. I don't know. Let me know what you think. As always, more interested to hear your thoughts and opinions on this. Make sure you rate and review this podcast if you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Mood for Feud, and don't forget to send me all your thoughts in the DMs. I love hearing from you guys, particularly with this one where there's a lot to unpack. Anyway, that's enough from me. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll speak to you guys next week. I don't want to give too much away, but there is going to be something a little bit special about next week. Wink, wink. I'll chat to you guys then. Bye!